Well, this is the closest thing I could find to Korean, really. Hello everyone, and today I actually just got back from seeing a movie called Green Room that I got to see this afternoon, and I'm just gonna give you my personal thoughts on it. This is an interesting film, I would say. Well, the story is basically about this punk rock metal band, and the members of them played. The most notable person from this band is Anton Yelchin, who plays Chekhov in the new Star Trek movies, and some other actors who play this punk rock band in a certain way, and they essentially were like a small little punk band like that, and they go around very underground. I wouldn't say underground, but it's very much like they don't want to be like truly big people, but they want to have an underground feel to them. So that they have like these little small cheap tours that they have at certain bars or certain places like that, and eventually they come across a bar that they come across in Oregon, I believe. Yeah, I think it was in Oregon that the film states, and that essentially, this bar is filled to the brim of skinheads. They're full of neo-Nazis, KKK members, really. And granted, this film doesn't go too far out with that perspective of it. They at least fully do address that these are very much neo-Nazi people. Essentially, while performing for this place, behind the scenes of this stuff, they come across the murder, essentially. And the people who run this bar tell them, essentially tell them, it's like, hey, no, you can't do that, you're not leaving, because you're a witness of this. And that's this whole group of skinheads who run this bar, and their, I wouldn't say their master, but their leader, played by the great Patrick Stewart. Like, literally, Picard himself. Picard and Professor X is a leader, and I'm just like, that is so weird, but so good. Yeah, and essentially they have to battle against them, and you're essentially being held prisoner, and they have to escape this really weird, psycho thriller, weird, tense movie like this. And straight up the board, I really enjoyed this film. I was hearing good things about this film, so I'm like, oh, okay. And I heard some really good reviews. On Rotten Tomatoes has like an 88, 89%. So I'm like, alright, damn, this is getting some seriously good reviews. So I went out and see it, and I actually fell into agree with the critics here. This movie was actually really good, and let's start with the good, at least. The mood, the tension, and the atmosphere is really great. It knows how to make you feel like you're in that position really, really well. It really knows how to make you feel like, okay, what would I do in this position? Would I just cry in a corner, or try to do something, or try to consult with someone, or whatever it may be? Shit. Oh well. But it's like, yeah, it brings out the point of you being in that position. I think it was really interesting for that. The tone was really well focused. I thought it was narratively, it was really interesting as a whole. The atmosphere was beautiful. Like, it's not like a beautifully shot movie, like, oh, cinematography, but it was a very handheld, no brush feel. Damn, this thing is loose. But oh well. But yeah, essentially, it was a really interesting film for that. And I think that a lot of the tone and all of the focus and how it gets, it was a really nitty-gritty, violent film. And weirdly enough, I loved the violence in this movie. It didn't go full-on out exploitative like a Saw movie, and yet it wasn't totally incomplete graphic like Kick-Ass or something like that would be. But it felt very controlled. It felt like it was very mature and adult with the gore. Applied the gore in a very smart, subtle way, where it needed to be like that before. Like I said, it didn't go too exploitive like a Saw movie, or too graphic like or a graphic novel film like Kick-Ass or Deadpool was. So yeah, I thought that was really great about it. The plot I thought was truly fascinating. I'm like, what inspired this plot? Like, who thought of this? This is a really weird but very fascinating story. And, yeah, I can't condone that enough. The ending itself was very good. It's a very tense movie. It's very, very haunting and deprivating and really kind of traumatizing as a whole. And I think it was a very personally, my perspective, a very intriguing, magnetic film that never ever let me out. And at a certain point in the end, like 5 minutes before the end, I'm like, I swear, they dragged this on too much. I'm actually kind of getting a little bit bored, or I thought I was dragging it out too much. And it's like 2-3 minutes later, it ends. I'm like, damn, okay, good. And the film knew how long it had to be. It wasn't too long, it wasn't too short. It was an hour and a half, great length for the film as a whole. And I thought that was a very strong aspect of it. It knew how to run its course. It wasn't too overly long or too simple with its own story. I thought it was interesting enough of how the length kept it at a good, distant narrative, at least. And I thought it was really good. But with all that said and done, I do think there's definitely some problems with the film. The performances are awesome, by the way. They are really awesome. In the moments where these neo-Nazis bring in the dogs, and I have a big fear of dogs, no joke. I am terrified of them, but that just took it from here up and more. It was just genuinely terrifying, and I was completely freaked out at those moments. And the kills were so interesting and creative that, yeah, that was really, really good. I just realized that this has two characters from Star Trek. You know, Anton Yelchin, who plays modern Chekhov in Star Trek, and Patrick Stewart, who would play Picard in Next Generation. Even though I'm not that huge of a Star Trek fan, I'm much more Star Wars, but whatever. That's totally unrelated. Yeah, as a whole, I was just really fascinated by this movie. I thought it was a really engaging film as a whole. It was very, very tense and very, very clever for its own sake. And as a whole, it was really good. It was really, really damn good. Now, I do have a couple of problems, mainly with the characters themselves. And not just if this filmmaker was the director of this film, who is, let's check it out, Jimmy Sauter. And essentially, I don't know what they were planning with these characters, but I found most of these characters a bunch of idiots, terribly unlikable idiots. So therefore, when you see all this stuff happen to them, you just don't care, and you kind of, I wouldn't say I was satisfied by their deaths, but it leaves a disdainable you should, this film as a whole, you should feel something when these characters. When something terrible does happen to these characters, you should feel that. But you don't, because the characters themselves are such shitheads. The main characters, I mean. They're idiots. They're just a bunch of idiots, really. And granted, they're not as terrible as the villains, but trust me, they're just terrible. I wouldn't say they're terribly undeveloped. To a various degree, I would say so, actually. They're not that developed, and you don't get enough of their own story, so you get emotionally involved with this movie. And yet, if you I understand that if there wasn't the filmmaker's number one priority within this film, but if it wasn't, what would it be? A sympathetic, position caring movie where how you would feel in this position? There's nothing more to this film than the character's perspective of being in this position. So therefore, if I can't relate to the characters, all the terrible things that happen, all the horrible moments like that, I just don't feel a thing for it. And it's like, oh, that happened to that person. That person got their hand chopped off, or someone got attacked by a dog in this movie, which does happen. And I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't feel attached to these characters. And I know, that's a huge problem in itself. The characters are just not that good. They're terribly dumb, and I just didn't like them. I felt nothing for them, not even for the main character himself. I'm like, why should I care if he lives or not? I don't feel that emotionally connected to him, so why should I care if he lives or not? Without trying to spoil the movie at all here, but as a whole, aside from that big nitpick, which is of the characters themselves, as a whole, this movie was still, Green Room was really, really good, and it had this really weird mystery thriller, I wouldn't say mystery thriller to it, but it had this omniscient tone that very much played on the underbelly. So I have a feeling like this is a film that you could rewatch over and over again, so you can kind of get the whole picture of it. So I think this movie is good, warranted for one of my biggest nitpicks for any film, which is replayability, and this film actually does have it. And in the end, I actually really was impressed with this film. And in the end, I'm going to give Green Room, in my opinion, an 84%. It may not be one of my top 3 or 4 favorite films of the year, but I will say it's a damn great film, and if you are capable of checking this movie out, I would truly recommend it for you. And in the end, my rating as a whole, well, Green Room, in my opinion, gets an 84%. Everyone, I really hope you enjoy my review of this movie, and stick around as always, everyone, because this weekend I'm also going to see the awesome comedy action movie Keanu, which I will probably have out on Sunday. Yeah, and essentially, till then, everyone, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the future for more videos. As always, till then, thank you. Bye.